singing telegram is this?
Maybe it's because of the particularly underwhelming string of movies I've had to sit through lately, and that I'm desperate for something with even a hint of entertainment value, but Jolly Roger Massacre at Cutter's Cove? I think is an actually good movie. Now by good, I mean by Asylum standards. If you held this movie up to most theatrical horror releases, it's a pretty underwhelming and poorly made flick, but compared to a lot of the stuff we've seen from the studio, and the stuff we've yet to cover here, this may sit on the top tier of Asylum productions. It's been a while since I could say that I've been legitimately entertained by an Asylum movie, and even longer since the last horror movie with any quality graced this channel, so I'm not gonna keep you waiting any longer. Let's batten down the hatches, hoist the mainsails, and get to pooping down the swab deck as we watch this rated R pirate movie. That was an actual joke used in the film, by the way. A group of teenagers are on the beach, saying and doing what all slasher movie teens do, when one couple accidentally awakens the undead corpse of Captain Jolly Roger, who proceeds to keel haul most of the teens. Emphasis on the keel. The two survivors, Alex and Jesse, are taken into custody for questioning, but escape and attempt to find out who Jolly Roger is and if he can be stopped. Meanwhile, Roger is having a day out on the town, hunting down certain people and collecting their heads to fill up his treasure chest for reasons only he knows, while Sheriff Mathis desperately tries to catch up with whoever is decapitating the townsfolk. As the bodies pile up and Jolly Roger gets ever closer to his goal, will Alex and Jesse find his weakness and stop him before it's too late? And will both Jack Sparrow and Barbossa call to say he's pinching their style? So while this is a slasher movie, the plot takes more of a monster movie direction. Instead of specifically targeting the established leads, like most of the slasher flicks featured so far, the main threat goes on a rampage and kills mostly random people, or people that were set up to solely be monster chow. So the structure is about as bare bones as a setup like this can get. Monster wakes up, kills a bunch of people, some other guys avoid it while trying to figure out how to stop it. Slowly enough for it to kill a few dozen other bystanders. Yeah, time being of the essence is always an alien concept to these people. And we eventually get the showdown between the survivors and the monster. I think the closest we've featured that matches this type of movie is Beast of Bray Road. Except, and I kid ye not, Beast of Bray Road had a more complex plot. In that one, we had subplots with the police chief hiring redneck monster hunters to track down the beast, a romance between our lead and the bartender, as well as the scientist and the police chief, cuts to various town people to establish who lives in this area and keeps you guessing who lives and who dies, and lore behind the creature that so-called experts were all too eager to share. Here, the mayor tells a story. And since this is such a no-frills plot, we have to have characters just as generic to match. We have the idiot teenagers who summon the monster, the good-looking lead couple who love each other, then hate each other, then love each other again, all while running from whatever's killing their friends, the overzealous sheriff who blames our leads for the murders, despite how little sense that makes, the deputy who's eager to help but mostly contributes nothing, and the mayor who... mayors. They run around, doing things they deem important, occasionally talking to each other or waiting for expositional clock to roll around, and just serve as filler to make an 80-minute runtime. These aren't characters as much as they are mannequins, living props placed where they need to be, doing stuff they're directed to do, and saying things just to keep a noise level going and retain your attention in between kill shots. They could have just forgone hiring actors and had the crew run around with life-sized cardboard cutouts synced to the director reading the script off screen, and made the exact same impact. And if that doesn't already exist, hey, somebody make that happen. I need something to move to the top of my watch list. Actually, it is funny just how useless our leads are. Oh, I don't mean they're idiots who screw things up at every turn. No. That would require them to actually be involved with the plot. The two quote-unquote main characters, Alex and Jesse, feel free to instantly forget their names, are here solely to check the box marked bad boy and cleaning girl teenage couple, and nothing else. They have almost nothing to do with the events of this movie. They're not tied to Jolly Roger in any way, they're not actively trying to stop him, both of them survived the movie, they weren't even part of summoning the guy, they're just there. Oh, the movie pretends they have importance, that what they're doing ties into Roger's rampage and that they're on the trail of valuable information to stop him, but no, they're not. Up until the very end, and I mean the very end, not a single action they take advances the plot or the world around them. Heck, you want to know what they do while everything's happening around them? We're introduced to them already a couple at the beginning. Jessie gets pissy that Alex doesn't want to go to the same college she's going and tosses the ring he gave her, which, okay dude, huge red flag springing up. The pirate shows up and kills their friends. They run. They're questioned and taken into custody for further interrogation. Alex tries to get out of there because he has a record and thinks he'll be booked for the murders. Which, unless they think you pulled a sword out of your butt and sliced someone in half with your Hulk-level strength, I think you'll be alright. They escape, try to get out of town, panic at a police roadblock, go to the school library to research Jolly Roger, run out of there, find a mural of the town founders, talk to the mayor who tells them about how the town fits in with the pirates' rampage, run from him again, then meet him in an abandoned warehouse where, at the very last minute, they actually do something. Something that anyone could have done and that nothing they did throughout their entire screen time was building up to. I haven't seen main characters so unconnected with the movie they're allegedly a part of since the 10th Kingdom. Heck, they're so useless the villain himself doesn't even bother going after them. They only meet him 3 times, and the first 2 times he just grins and they run away, and then it's back to business. He didn't have a problem massacring their friends, despite them not doing a thing to him, but our leads, they're not worth the effort of wiping their blood off his cutlass. This is a movie where our leads could have just gone home, sat on the couch, watched TV, and let the universe sort itself out, and nothing would have been lost. Kind of like 3 of the 4 Indiana Jones movies, come to think of it. Our actual lead character is Chief Mathis. He's the hard-ass, humorless, small-town cop usually seen in these films, and who spends a good chunk of the movie thinking Alex and Jessie are behind the murders. Oh, because they totally look capable of shoving a marshmallow stick straight through someone's head. When they're not shooting off the 18th century muskets college kids are known for carrying around. They're the new fidget spinners, didn't you know? But unlike the Teen Vogue magazine covers posing as our main characters, this guy actually does something. He's the one who actually takes initiative, who actually trails the killer, who actually pieces the puzzle together, and who actually has any interaction with the rest of the characters. And he proves to be the most interesting and even likable guy in the movie. Okay, he does start out as sort of the secondary antagonist, where he, like I said, thinks Alex and Jessie are the ones doing all the killing. But after the 2nd or 3rd decapitation, it finally clicks that maybe their story of a maniac running around in a seaweed-covered Blackbeard getup might hold a little more weight than he thought. And from there, he switches his focus to who this guy might be, what he wants, where he might strike next, and what he can use against Captain Crunch's corpse. Okay, there's a weird scene where he tries to resign right in the middle of the investigation, and the mayor quite rightly tells him, "I'm not letting you quit while there's a psycho slashing up the town. Suck up your self-pity and do your damn job." And he does so, and eventually finds and steals the treasure chest Roger needs for his plan, moving it to where he can fight him on his own terms. Okay, you know what? Thank you, movie. Thank you for giving us a character I can root for. Somebody with an ounce of sense who takes responsibility and actually tries to fix the situation. That's actually quite hard to find in these kinds of movies. And thank you for making him a cop and not falling back on the cliche of horror movie police being idiots there to hinder the plot and ultimately serve as more kill fodder. But above all, thank you for not making this guy the artificial villain. You could have easily forgotten that you had a supernatural zombie buccaneer running around slaughtering people with his antiquated arsenal, and just been about a Hicktown sheriff chasing Tools Meet World with undead Captain Hook popping in to say hi every 20 minutes. But you didn't. You kept the focus on the actual threat, and then introduced some second threat that hijacks the film and steals screen time from what actually stands out in your movie that could have been cut with nothing lost. I'm looking at you, Ghost Rider, Brothers Grimm, and Peabody and Sherman. There are a couple other characters for our leads to talk to and to show this town as some semblance of economy, and the rest are the meat train. The literal checklist of people the killer needs to slice up before he can call it a day. And while Beast of Bray Road or the Scarecrow movies set up most of their kill counts, let us know who these people were before they were off to meet their maker, here, most are just introduced and axed off in the same scene. Yeah, we're given practically nothing on who these people are or what roles they played in this town. It's just, hey look, here's a jerk. He dead now. But hey, I'm cool with that. It doesn't matter who these people were, what matters is how they go out. Because, let's face it, we're not here for plot or characters or even that much originality. No. We're here because we were promised a cartoonish psychopath that slices up the town while delivering one-liners, and this movie delivers big time. This is our main murderer for the day, fictional pirate Roger LaForge, aka Jolly Roger, played by Rhett Giles. And I just have to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you for turning this guy...
I realize he is enamored with your beauty. But Josiah assures me he is an expert in all things Nosferatu.
...into this guy.
Hello, Tarrington. You took my treasure, matey, but not again.
This is one of the most fun movie slasher killers I've seen in a while, especially from the Asylum. Not only is the costume and makeup phenomenal, I mean, he looks like how you'd picture an 18th century pirate who's been dead underwater for 300 years, but Rhett Giles treats it like the role of his life. He gives this stereotypical pirate performance, with the R's and the me hearties and the wenches and the other pirate talk, but he puts so much into this act that he creates a convincing character. I don't see a guy in a mask told to recite lines off a cue card. I see this ruthless, hardened, crafty, permanently drunk undead pirate who's slightly bewildered by modern times, but won't let anything stand in his path of revenge. This is a role taken so seriously, yet given such a manic energy that every minute this guy's on screen is an absolute delight.
You betrayed the code of the pirates. Prepare to die. You scurvy dog.
Even with the more comedic scenes that make him look a little stupid, he still pulls them off with dignity and spirit. Like when he finds out that his treasure chest has been stolen. He could have easily given no reaction or an over-the-top freak-out, but instead finds a middle ground where he stays in character, yet still gives a memorable and hilarious performance.
The world I'll sail off the edge with my flag unfurled.
Can we have that scream for Darth Vader? My guy, instantly fixed. Needless to say, his kills are no less fun to watch. Admittedly, most feature him decapitating those on his list, and that gets a little old, but it's the lead-up and the other kills that make the movie. He starts things off with slicing a girl in half and impaling another on a marshmallow stick. Why he attacked them, why they weren't in his way, and only one was on his list, I have no idea, but who cares? Halved! Marshmallow! Genius! And from there, it just gets even crazier. From eating live fish out of a guy's aquarium, to setting his thumb on fire and immolating a guy, to beating a bouncer to death with his own arm. I love it, I love it, I love it. I love it. Oh yeah, did I forget to mention that part? He goes into a strip club looking for victims, and a stripper actually tries to entertain him. It is one of the most surreal scenes in the history of scenes, and Roger's complete non-reaction makes it possibly the most priceless part of the movie.
Is that a musket in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
It's a musket.
I still argue that the original Scarecrow is the most entertaining slasher we've seen so far, but I have no problem thinking of this guy as a talking Bloody Bill. Now, if only he had a theme song. That doesn't count. Besides Giles' heavenly performance, the rest of the acting is... yeah. It's certainly better than what we've had recently. I mean, most of the actors do try to give character and inflection to their dialogue, but most of it comes off as flat and disinterested. I can say that they're not necessarily reading an off-screen cue card like so many of these other movies, but they're trying so hard to remember their lines that that's all they focus on. Just getting the lines out and not really doing anything with them. But considering the bland, exposition-laden quality of their dialogue, they didn't have that much to work with in the first place.
Why don't we go to the school?
I know how I feel about the school.
Well, we can go to the computer lab. We can get information there.
For what?
We can find out something about this killer.
Okay.
For the movie's cast, we get a couple returning and talented faces we haven't seen in a while. We were already introduced to Rhett Giles just last movie, and we'll see him again later. Tom Nagel, who plays Alex, we previously saw in Beast of Bray Road, and he has a couple more Asylum movies to feature in. He also had a small role in Man of Steel, and was the writer, director, producer of the cult horror flick Clowntown, which starred him and his brother and fellow actor Brian Nagel, whom you may recognize from a certain Katy Perry music video. Christina Korn played Jessie, and besides a few short films, her filmography stops here. Just another brick in the wall, I guess. Thomas Downey, who played Police Chief Mathis, we also saw in Beast of Bray Road, and he has a good number of Asylum movies left. He also featured in the video games Code Blue and Kohan Immortal Sovereigns, and later in another movie from this film's director. Pamela Munro, who played Mayor Bates, has a filmography composed mostly of documentary reenactments, and was in an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, a show that Kim Little coincidentally also made an appearance in. And speaking of which, Kim Little has graced us once again with her appearance. This is during the Ginger phase of her career, where she's still regularly acting, but in smaller roles than the lead she originally filled. Which, after having to do Jane White and Killers 2 back-to-back, I don't blame her. Don't worry, we'll see her back in the lead again soon. She plays Lowenstein, a character that I don't quite get. I think she's supposed to be a new recruit, someone only just hired to assist Mathis, and who tries to act calm and professional, but isn't emotionally prepared for this killing spree, but she's not given much to say or do. She just kind of appears when she's needed, like when Mathis needs to talk about the case, or when there's a 911 call and Mathis is busy. I get the feeling she was just on set at the time, and this role was written because she wanted to incrementally get back into the acting game. It is one of the lesser performances of her career, but being Kim Little, she still rocks the screen no matter what she plays. Besides our leads, we have a surprising number of actors who went on to do a lot during and after this movie. We have Coleman McClary, who's been in everything from Argo to Addams Family Reunion to Star Trek Voyager. Bernadette Perez, who has over 100 credits to her name, including Asylum movies and directing, editing, producing Ask a Cam Harlot. Amanda Barton, who's done a lot of Asylum movies, as well as Ginger Dead Man 3, my condolences for that one. Megan Lee Etheridge, who was the lead in the previously featured Alien Abduction. Dean N. Arevalo, whom we've seen before and will see again. British comedian Spencer Jones, who makes his film debut here, also featuring in 3 other Asylum movies before starting the comedy career he's well known for today. And a bunch of other names known for a lot, most of whom have close ties to writer-director Gary Jones, a veteran director and visual effects artist who's worked on everything from Boogeyman 3, Crocodile 2, Xena Warrior Princess, and a lot of low-budget horror and Christmas movies. And also DeLay Scott, whom I last brought up in Beast of Bray Road, and who's directed, written, and or produced a good number of Asylum movies, including this one, that one, and Jane White is Sick and Twisted. Once again, you have to marvel at what sprouts from a forgotten seed planted in the lowest quality dirt that can be found. Speaking of Leigh Scott, hey there Leigh, whom we last saw in Dead Man Walking and is making his first Asylum appearance here. And guess what? You give a funny performance, so I like you even more than I already did. Maybe I'll have to do a Leigh Scott perspective one of these days. Or at the very least, check out Witches of Oz. We even get an appearance by legendary writer, director, producer, actor Griff First, whom we last saw in Alien Abduction and Dead Man Walking. And in the 1 minute of screen time he has, he becomes the second best character of the movie. He cameos as this sleazebag developer, who's rude to his staff and is the second to get decapitated, and by guy does he sell it! Just from this little strut he does, you can tell what kind of person he is, how overly cocky he acts, and that he doesn't have long to live once Roger shows up. And after his other 2 performances, where he takes a somewhat heroic role, it's interesting seeing him as more of a douche. He easily pulls off one of the most punchable grins I've seen, so if he pops up as the actual bad guy in an Asylum movie, that'll be an interesting watch. And if he doesn't, I'll just have to track down a movie where he does. The camera is quite professional for this level of movie. Everything's well framed, they know when to back the camera off and when to zoom in close, we get some impressive pans focusing on tracking shots, and it lays off the obnoxious transition effects. The only transition I think we ever get is the occasional fade to black, which I usually hate, but since this was originally a TV movie, it has its purpose. A lot of the footage is clearly shot with a handheld, but they do keep most of the shots still, and they use a tripod for some scenes, so hey, it all looks good. And this is the same year Alien Abduction was spat out. What a contrast. The sound is also quite good. Everything's clear, everything's balanced, and I'm convinced they are where they're filming. The dialogue's not obviously recorded in a separate room like a lot of these other movies sound. They actually add some ambiance and other filters to make it sound like they're filming in a coastal town right next to the ocean. There are a couple scenes with annoying reverb from filming in a small enclosed space, but it's nowhere near Dead Man Walking levels of distracting. Even if most of the dialogue is as interesting as salt on a cardboard box, I can still hear every word. The music's passable. There's no composer credit or soundtrack list, leading me to believe this movie's solely scored by a library. But for what they included, they're not bad choices. We get a rocking instrumental intro that doesn't match the pyro motif, but does match the cheesy slasher tone of the film, so it works. And the rest is either silence or soft atmospheric background music. You know, the wow and the boom, boom, boom type that gives you the impression something's happening and keeps your attention, even when it's not. And then there are tracks that sound straight out of a Genesis or DOS game, chiptunes that don't match the rest of the music at all and sound more at home scoring a Russian pirate game than an American pirate movie. The editing's fine. A couple scenes do drag, and it feels like we're stuck in some places for longer than needed, but it's usually followed by a Jolly Roger scene, so it's worth the wait. Though the splicing for the kill scenes can get a little, pardon the pun, choppy. For most of them, there's an unneeded second or two that disconnects the shots and makes it hard to believe one immediately follows another. It's not alien abduction bad, but they could have used another pass-through in post to trim them down and improve the timing. The effects are surprisingly competent. While they're obviously fake and low budget, they're presented in a way to still make it look like something's happening. Even though this decapitation is horrible CGI, and this one is clearly a plastic head flying through the air followed by blood splurting out of a jacket, I can suspend my disbelief enough to believe this happened. It's not like Vampires vs. Zombies with their visible blood tubes and their obvious cuts to dummies getting smashed. These shots are convincing enough for me to buy that these people have been murdered in the context of the movie. It helps that they use a combination of both practical and digital techniques, and that they know these effects are painfully fake, so they're on and off the screen before it can blink. And not drawing way too much attention to an actress clearly having a sheet of cardboard covering her lower half. Isn't that right, Intermedio? I guess my only major gripe with this movie is its ending. As I've already gone over, the movie's not perfect, but it's in its last 5 minutes that its flaws really stand out. We suddenly get an explanation to why Roger's been killing these people, and it comes right the hell out of nowhere. There was absolutely no lore or backstory established that would cause him to believe what he believes collecting these specific heads will do. And when he fulfills the requirements, well, nothing happens. Okay, something happens, but I think there was a disconnect between the director and the effects artist, because none of the characters act like anything happened. And they play an obviously unfinished effect twice, like something was supposed to happen, but nobody reacts to it. The movie gets really choppy at this point, like they changed the ending at the last minute, but they used the footage they shot anyway and tried to edit around it. Everything from the effects to the editing to even the acting just gets, well, even more amateur. Even from Giles, who, after starting the scene off intimidating, suddenly starts looking around aimlessly and even wanders off camera. Like the director fell asleep for a second and forgot to give him directions, so he thought the shot was finished. He looks so lost and has so little reaction to anything around him that when Alex finally finishes him off, it almost feels ad-libbed. Like they legitimately had no idea how to end the scene. So the actor just picked up the sword and playfully swiped at Roger, and the director said, "Okay, we'll end with that." And the effects team threw together possibly the most unconvincing death of the movie. Heck, I'm pretty sure Giles accidentally walking off screen was a blooper. And they just ADR'd a couple lines for him and for Alex to make it sound like they're still here and invested.
Where is it, Trigger? Where's my gold? Who did I miss? There must be one more. Get your jaws off on this.
I don't know. It's weird too, after seeing the bulk of this movie made with some degree of professionalism, suddenly have this unfinished work print edited with Windows Movie Maker tacked on as an ending. This whole sequence feels rushed. Like this was the last thing they had to film. They were down to their last $5 and they had 10 minutes to film everything, so whatever footage they captured, they had to use. It doesn't ruin the movie. Heck, it just adds another flavor of crazy to this mound of cheese, but it comes right the hell out of nowhere, sloppily wraps everything up, and leaves. But honestly, were we expecting anything else? Oh, and second twist ending in the last 10 seconds. Yep, that happens. This movie is a galleon load of fun. After weeks and weeks of crap, it's nice to see a movie that's also crap, but knows that it's crap. It knows that it's working with a budget of snack cake from a dollar store 5-pack, and that its script was written in the time it took to consume said snack cake, so they focus their efforts into every other aspect, bringing forth a comedy horror flick with energy, visual appeal, and even some creativity. Yes, the plot is played out, the leads are cardboard, the editing can get a little rough, and the ending makes no sense visually or story-wise. But it's shot well, looks nice, is well paced, and has engaging characters, including one of the funniest, most entertaining costume killers I've ever seen. Is it bad? Yes. Is it the fun kind of bad? Oh hell yes. This is absolutely one for your bad horror movie night. Something you can laugh at with friends and enjoy for just how over the top and energetic its plot and characters are. It's definitely one of the best Asylum movies I've seen so far, and a welcome break from the mediocrity that comprises their catalog. If you can find a copy, go ahead and pop it in. 'Tis a buried treasure worth sailing the 7 seas for, me bonny lads and lasses. Well, everyone, thank you for being patient. We've seen a lot of films from the Asylum's early days, but now it's finally time to take a look at what you've all been waiting for. The Asylum has already established itself as a producer and distributor of low-budget horror and thriller movies, but their next offering would change everything. It's the beginning of an era, and it all starts with one certain movie. And we'll be looking at the movie right here next time. Hey there everyone, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider supporting me on Patreon and help me create even more content like this. It's only $1 to get early access to my videos, and only $5 gets you a credit at the end of each of those videos, with higher tiers offering these and even more perks. And as you help me reach certain goals, I have super special content lined up for all of you. Head on over and check out my Patreon today, and I'll see you next time.